Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unc and Market Monk. Morning, P. How's your week?
Really good. Just coin really took off.
Yeah.
Bought quite a lot of that when um on the last drop, the up to 180, 185, everything under that I was just loading up shares. So yeah, just really good stuff there. I bought all that thinking of it as a kind of like a 1 to 2 year target. I figured I'd just be trading options on it and the zone, kind of thought maybe the top would be 250 or something like that. But no, I mean it just really outdid my expectations there. So that was a pretty massive one for me. Solar worked out. Just had some pretty good spots on that. And I mean, the funny thing is like a conversation we had many times that run is the easiest one, and I still had more end phase than run, but it yeah, just way oversold. Any kind of news that it's not going to be as bad as was originally reported would really send those. So saw quite a bit of that as well. Did well on Nike too. So yeah, pretty good week overall for me.
Definitely a little better week than the previous week. But you hit all-time highs on SPY. That tends to happen. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of grinders. Coin was great. I know we had the conversation midweek, but there's a lot of names like that where you never buy enough. You bought it when it was in the dirt. You're planning on buying more, and they just turned around. And some, I mean, there's a few names that are 50, 100% just since April. And then you have the fireworks grinding market we've been in, and if you're not greedy, there's a lot to trade out there. Um, just getting to that point to where you got to be a little bit more mindful on where the top is.
And something that I mean, I said a couple weeks ago in when I was in Utah is just this idea of whether it's Meta or Netflix that you know I'm gonna target these and I'm gonna be the big hero and short this. And I was like, well, okay, but what's stopping Netflix from going to 1300 or 1400? And here it is. I mean, it just took off, and it's just that market momentum. I mean, these are major stocks in the indices, and um, when you just get a move like that, it's hard. It's hard to call the top on it. I mean, you're in a better spot if you own some and you're deciding, all right, when am I going to scale back and get out of this thing? Spotify for me, I did that, got back in, not as big a position as what I had back at the pivots, but still involved there. But I mean, yeah, shorting this stuff, particularly with options, is really a problematic thing to try to do.
I don't know where you're getting the idea that there's going to be downside. I mean, you definitely don't listen to us much.
Right, right, yeah,
I had it
yeah.
kind of in my notes to mention the oxen analogy you talk about because it's really prevalent right now. Um, like
Yeah, yeah.
you get into any market, any trend, and it's hard to turn around. I mean, it does take a not an act of God, but a world issue or a world outlook that it's not going to be good in 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 months, however far out the market's looking. And a lot of people miss that point, and currently it's very prevalent. The market is very forward looking. If you don't see it kind of pricing it, it went from pouting about tariffs to pricing in rate cuts. But those two metrics are so forward looking. They're thinking about, well, how's that going to, wash out for me in the next 3, 4, 5 years? And, who's going to be able to take advantage of that? And you just kind of, you see it over and over again. And the same with those pullbacks. I mean, when it's real ugly, that's when you got to buy the Netflix, Facebooks, and Microsofts. And as you come out of that, then then the secondary names, and you've seen Hims with the pullback and run, and now pulling back again. Um, Then there's some names that just don't stop. So you kind of got to learn how to ride those cycles, because if you're not necessarily late, but if you're not at the station at the right time, you're not going to get a pick to what to trade. And we've seen it 4 or 5 different times, to where the good opportunities are usually in the worst conditions on the best names, and then shortly you got about a month after that the market kind of picks itself up, and we make a decision from there. And um, 620 still kind of been the decision on the year, and people just don't really see it that way. And you have to look at that bigger picture. Um, Shout out to the minute chart for providing that for me, but without that, you're kind of pissing in the wind and guessing where we're gonna go, um, overall. And that's where you do chase those ones that are up 100%, and you just don't want to be in that kind of market. You want to wait for that better opportunity to buy, whether it's a day trade, a swing trade, or a long term position.
I know, definitely. And I mean, you see people like on hymns, calling it generational
Yeah,
when it dips like this. Which it's not exactly. We're still well above when we were talking about that one, as a major position. Other than good range, good trade, but no, I mean not generational. And
yeah,
the other thing too, you get a big world event. I mean, Iran, Israel, you know, going to war briefly. Yeah, that's a major event, but you see how controlled that was. I mean, especially when the U.S. got involved. Like, we're gonna bomb this spot. It's coming. We're gonna do it, and then the retaliation is, like we get a heads up on that through intelligence or through them just telling us. Both sides can sort of save face a bit, and the market kind of shrugs it off. And here we go. So it's a lot of global news events are after hours and pre-market events, and you just cannot chase that move because while they can disrupt the bigger picture, like you mentioned with the oxen analogy, there's a lot of shifting around of positions that has to happen for the market to just reverse and stay that way. And path of least resistance is to dip and recover, and then you might consolidate and park for a while, burn up some option premium or whatever. But a major trend change is much more difficult to uh, predict, and especially if you're if options are your thing. I For me, downside, it's more about caution. It's about the kinds of positions I enter, and how long I hold them. I mean, that's more what I how I look at the downside that I see. Um, Puts are always quick hitters for me. I have some level in mind it's going to pull back to, and I'm like, well, might as well trade it there if I see it. But yeah, the follow through just isn't there lately.
yeah. No, it's just. I mean, it looks bullish. It's hard for anyone that's not decisive, because the market looks bullish. You see everything going up, and it's you're like, well, where do I enter at? When you get up here, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't take it as like you're not necessarily an idiot or slow or don't have this figured out, but the more the market overextends, whether it's to the down or the up, it's harder to trade. I mean, you've always heard me talk about
Right.
I like when we're stuck in a range as long as it's big enough in consolidation. That's my favorite area to trade. I buy it at 3, sell it at 360. It's my favorite trade. I mean, that's literally how I like to trade. Just dumb. Let's just stay there for a month. So I understand, like, when we get up here, it's a lot harder to find plays. Um, you get back to where you're not going to be able to trade what you want. That's kind of where that comment led, because we're getting there. Like, you're going to get into some names we haven't talked to about for a while, maybe some sectors that just don't look great. But those are what's next. And when you get into an overextended or overvalued market, that's what people that are trying to make money look for, are things that undervalued, and those just kind of slim out and run out. Um, like, yeah, people aren't pumping Netflix now. I mean, we ran 30% from $1,000, but the ones that took a chance on it down there at 1,000, they're doing really good, and we had that opportunity. So it's as you go into that overextended side, you just got to be a little bit more tighter with your checks and your not necessarily your stops, but your position sizing. I think is a little more important.
Yeah, like well, here's John Deere for example. I haven't traded this in quite a while just because it's kind of checked out to 500. I mean, I was operating around these two pivots here for you know years basically, and it finally it gave a couple last chances at that 402, and then just took off and it's just been gone. And I would expect it would take something significant to revisit those pivots. Could happen, but I expect it sets back up at 480, 460, something like that. But it's going to take a long time before I can really trade that as a setup. It's not pivots you really trust. You can 500 psych, I guess, or whatever, but it's all kind of option driven, and I wait for a while. I kind of get a feel for when your levels you might have something for me on one like this that took off, but yeah, I mean you just got to kind of wait. I think on something like that. So that was one we talk about your 4 or 5 stocks. I would look at John Deere almost every day. Now it's I can't really do that up here.
Yeah,
And also too, when the stock is $380 and $500, that's a big difference in option pricing too. So not only is your risk higher, but it's more expensive to even trade the thing. So so yeah, it's not a setup I trust, and it's more expensive. You should stay away. Much as I have liked that one in the past, that's just where that one's at. So you look for new things, and I mean for me the park and wait in small caps has been some of my biggest wins this, other than some IPOs and coin. Um, those are some of my bigger wins this whole year. So I expect that to continue, and so there's still plenty of stocks like that, and I would also like last point on that is when you get a major rotation into the small caps that everyone calls shitcos, that is often a local top for SPY, at least. That the market just kind of blows off steam, and just money flies into Beyond Meat and QuantumScape and all this shit, and then the market cools off for a bit. Small caps slow down, we reset, and then typically over the past couple of years, then we go higher again. So that's just something to be mindful of too.
yeah, definitely a trend or cycle that we're currently in. I couldn't agree more. Um, the the biggest thing for me is kind of talking about reentry and where to go on these charts is the original plan. And I mean, we'll just use coin because we're both pretty fluid in that. But we argued over that 76, 72 number area when it was down there, and then got a pretty good move off of that. It took a while for me to come back into well, where would I rebuy this? Just because I had the trade, and 250, 300 didn't seem reasonable. Um, but as we got back down and broke the hundreds, the 100% from our original entry, little Fibonacci guys understand that, just seemed like a good spot for a higher low. And then you go back to the original thesis. Well, coin's a $400 stock, and you kind of redo the ratio, and then if it makes sense, that's where reentry makes sense. So that original plan should still kind of always be your guiding light. And coin's an easy one to say, this is when you should have re-entered, because of the thesis. And we could say the same thing with HIMS currently. I mean, I said 35 on this last dip. The puts were at 36. We didn't really get down there, but um, our price target, the ratio still makes sense to be in that long term. And Nvidia, same thing. It AMD is probably a better example. I was just fucking bitching at people, don't buy at 135. Well, you're unbagged now, but you're probably Yeah, you probably lost half your fucking hair doing that to yourself in the first part of the year, and you could have had better allocated that money. But having that original ratio, I don't think AMD is a $200 stock, and most people do. Is it a mid $100 stock? Sure, but you can't buy a mid $100 stock, in my opinion, at 135 and trade it to 150 and think you're doing great, especially when we have levels down in the 70s. Um, so it's a good example just
Absolutely. And
of
I
those to stay with your original plan thesis and even price targets in your own head. And if the ratio makes sense and there's a level, that kind of helps it a little bit. Go ahead, Pete.
so your Nvidia trade on the one previous to this on the big move and into the all
The one I sold into
um
earnings. Talking about that one.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay.
And then so then I wasn't I missed that one. I was in AVGO, which did just as well percentage wise. But so I didn't have a lot of Nvidia experience other than there's maybe two, three times a year where it shows up as an option look for me. And Apple's the same way. But with Nvidia this time, it's like I know we're not going to get that entry from whatever pre-split $40 or something
Yeah.
or less. But that that the 100 area um, is kind of a natural space. But interestingly, in options, it was more precise than that, and it was 95. And so and I saw 95 puts when it was in the 130s on that first drop to 120, then it recovered and then went down
Yeah.
again. I kept seeing that over and over again, so I had that in mind that that would be the spot for me. That if anything under 100, I said like 102, down to the mid 90s, I'm just gonna buy it. And if it further breaks down into $80 or something, I'll just average down. I don't think the company's going anywhere. I said chips are a national security issue maybe a year and a half ago, and that's been how it sort of has played out. It's just too important. AI still got a lot of juice in it. So anyway, so that was where I got in that one, and that's kind of my story of reentry of something like this, where you know you you can go back to it. That spot's going to be higher than what it was on that first move, but it does set back up, and you can get it, and on I'll also being willing to buy into strength a little bit above your rock bottom entry. I mean, that's an important lesson. It has been for me. The average up winners has been something that I do as well. Right, I don't feel like I just completely have to catch the bottom and keep that small average. I mean, if coin is a $400 stock, then I'm not
$220's
just going
fine.
to stop buying. Yeah, I'm not just going to stop buying because I bought under 200 and now it's over 200. I'm going to buy a little more, not as much, but buying into the move is important. And I mean, we see it with flow all the time, where you're just like follow the flow, all time high chart, and a lot of those do just keep going. So especially if you're share side in a setup like that, you can lower your risk a bit and use the work.
Yeah, I got a lot to cover there. Nvidia is a unique
Yeah,
unicorn. Like you should always I'm always going to re-enter Nvidia. Let's just throw that out there. And
yeah, yeah.
my Nvidia buys last time the trade you're talking about were 140, 160. I mean that's just the price. So
Yeah.
that I mean it's split. Let's not forget that. Um, but that's good. I've always reverted to the chart on that one, and we were real close on the just fucking buy it. For me, it was this 89 shelf I had on the weekly, which lined up kind of close to your 95. I just looked at it a little different. Like I had a window from like 115 down to 90 that in this ad zone you're gonna be fine, and just kind of take it a little slower because we should be here for a little bit, and then buy the bottom heavy when we get there to your perceived bottom. And I mean, I didn't do a great job at it, but if you go on the Nvidia chart, I mean, those two lines I have, don't search the group for when I mentioned them, were off my last sell. So like until these last like I guess about the last month, like the sell I made after earnings was underwater. Like I mean it went up, trust me, it went up for like a week or two, but it was basically even or underwater. So that time I gained 4, 5, 6 months of time and then re-entered. Not as big, not even close to as big. Um, but that's something that I would always take into consideration is your time in the trade is kind of important. And again, Nvidia is a unicorn, so it's a little harder to talk about. But that's the difference in coin. That's a good example. I don't want to buy coin at 220 and it sit, 250, 230, 280 for 6 months. Whereas if I buy coin at 165, I'm more okay with that. I can scale out a little bit and hold that trade. It's not necessarily about nailing the bottom. It's about having that actual plan for me that guides that. Um, but the good names, P, you're always going to want to re-enter. So I would definitely plan those right away. Oh, and Tesla, same thing. And I think the only one that I probably talked in depth with it was Carlos. But I was selling Tesla at the first of the year, and I my final sell on Tesla was 350. It's a perfect example, and I didn't get back into Tesla because I was waiting for the 200 break, that about 200 to 184 my level. But it's a perfect example of, man, I could have just, I mean, I would have had a wild ride. I would have felt like I lost 60% of that trade. Wouldn't have re-entered, even though I didn't re-enter. And I wasted, 7, 8 months on it. So, um, just good examples of names that timing is everything. I don't know how else to say it, but they're gonna go up. Like Microsoft is gonna be worth more. Apple's gonna be worth more. That's a good one for right now. Tesla's gonna be worth more. You have to time them appropriately. Could you just buy the top and hold on for 4 or 5 years? Yeah, you can, but I'm trying to make money. And that's not the best way to make money.
I mean, you're just it's it's just parked there, not doing anything for you. So yeah, Tesla. I had this 220 pivot. That was where I got back in, and I sold about half of it at 280. And just I'm gonna kind of see what it wants to do up here. I kind of expect some of these pivots to be revisited though. Just
Yeah, sure, sure.
I numbers will catch up to them a little bit, I
So,
think.
hey, that's a
And
great
but
example. P, like I didn't buy Tesla at 220. If it goes back to 220, I'm gonna buy it.
yeah,
I'm gonna buy it.
yeah,
I won't
sure,
make that
yeah,
mistake again.
right. Yeah, I mean we've had several taps at that, and it's been really fascinating uh, setup for me just because like I have this 192, and then we talk all the time about
There's our
your
argument.
your level below that one. Right. And and end of the day, either one of those, or buy it at both of them or whatever, works fine. The thing about Tesla is, there's like more option shakeouts than any
Yeah.
stock out there, and even more so than SPY, because it's harder. SPY's so huge that it's harder for whales to do that. But Tesla always has massive option volume, and they can really slam the brakes and turn it around for just for heck, 15 minutes, and that's enough to shake people out. And you saw that even on Friday and um, Thursday a few times. You get these big drops like this, and so someone's in a weekly option at 330. They're wanting to hold it to take it in the money. It gets to 330, drops $6, shake them out, work its way back up, set up again, etc. And it just does that over and over again. So a better trade for Tesla is the share position, ignore the noise kind of thing, and that's you know what we've been what we've been all about. I mean, the stock I learned this on, and then I'll get to the boring
Roku.
stuff. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, 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 right. Is I mean these pivots have just been a gold mine. But
Yeah.
if you break through that 83.95, and then you're like, okay, this is my long-term forever hold on Roku. It's been foolish to do that, even though we keep coming back here. But why would you do that? Roku is not coin. Roku is not. I don't look at Roku and say this is a $400 stock or a $300 stock, even though it's been there before. Um, this is a market anomaly you have to ignore, and this is kind of the reality of Roku. And Roku could very well 120, 150 or something like that. But we've talked about their situation. You got warehouses full of hardware and a software product that has a ton of competition. It's tricky, it's tricky, and so you kind of live down here, and basically trade the pivots, and you're good.
Um, to kind of round that out before the boring stuff, Tesla bothers me because I know the whole story, and I don't mean Elon Musk, PayPal guy, starting his own company. Tesla was the most shorted stock for years because no one believed in that fucker. Like no one believed in him, and he had a very proprietary idea. I mean, create a new car company. So yeah, that's very unique. But there's several other companies out there that are much younger, um, that are also very unique. I mean, we want to talk about coin, we want to talk about hymns. I mean, they can dominate their market in the long run. Same with the root and the lemonade and the insurance. Just very unique companies that
Right.
people don't believe in the beginning. Those ones are always going to have the best range because they have the two sides usually the whole time. The shorts don't usually go away. They're in it for the long run, and um,
Yeah.
Roku is the same way. And that's why if you zoom out on Roku, which I have it now, it was a $450 stock at one point in time because the shorts were losing, and then they got to get out, and you get that those crazy price action. So finding those companies I think are the best. There's not going to be, it's real hard to find another Tesla because I mean that just worked out perfectly. But for me, those always are the best, and we have a ton of those currently where they're just really unique ideas on the ground. um, and they basically have two people betting against them, or not betting against them, but two people willing to bet, and the market will let those people play all day. Last little point, and it was at the beginning. If me and Market Monk are those two people arguing about a price target or a price where to buy, and it's like $5 off, just pick one of us, and you'll be right.
Right. Yeah.
You can't lose. And I have yet to
Yeah,
seen us both
definitely.
be wrong in that kind of situation where we're pretty adamant. And Roku's the same way. I mean, you pulled up your chart, and I think you had like 60 something, and 80. Well,
Yeah.
I got that 52.96, and we can argue about those couple bucks, but you buy either of those levels, you probably had four 50% trades over the last year and a half.
Been a good one. And can just sort of when it gets when it gets into that zone, that 60 to 83, it's usually going to complete it, or get pretty close enough where you'll go ahead and just bail on it. But yeah, that's been good. All right, so talk a little boring. Start with copper, just because it did what I talked about it doing, which was the fact it was setting up in the upper fours, that it was probably going to punch through five, and that the extent of this move to me is a $5 to $7 area. But I mean that once it gets up here, that kind of depends on um, some macroeconomic factors and stuff like that. But the point was with with that there were a lot of great entries on some copper and aluminum where you're going to get your 10 to 25% on those stocks and just great swing setups, low IV if you did want to do options on them too. So we saw that move, and now we'll just see if it can hold five. That's sort of where I'm at with copper at the moment.
Yeah, just add to that a little bit. The You just said it nonchalantly, but realistic price targets on certain sectors and stocks. Um, for one, well, why don't you just trade the stuff that only goes up 50%? Well, I like to sleep at night, first of all. I like to be diversified, second of all. And we're doing the work, so trade the charts. Um, yeah, take your 10%, 15%. Hold on to AA or something like that if you like stuff like that. Um, but yeah, nailed it, P. I don't know what else to say there. It just seems like a lot of people will didn't move 50%. Well, we gave you AG for that, but I digress.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And silver still strong up here. I mean, there's a lot of people calling for the big silver breakout at this point. I don't I kind of agree with that, but I think that if this is the first time you're talking about silver, where kind of where were you? Um, I mean, this whole time because the move to get here, the move to get to the setup where it has this massive breakout, um, was just as good or better than whatever it's going to do from here. And that was the same. Gold was the same way. You want the the setup before the setup is really what
Yeah,
you where you want to enter, and then it's a much easier to deal with. So there's some it's going to just continue to be a strong sector. Identify some individual names here and there. Buy on red days.
yeah,
That's going to continue in both gold and silver to me. Gold might actually give you a little bit of a channel here. A 32 to 3400 thing might start to take shape. Kind of doubt it dips back to 3000, but we'll see what happens there.
yeah, yeah. And I'm just more in a you hit a home run and you just monitor the chart, hope you get to see the pitch again. Um,
Yeah.
I'm a couple weeks away from jabbing and collabs on some of those. There's a few that I like, but again, I just like that level to build. So, um, be interesting if who not to not to post a challenge or anything or get you to jump, but it's going to be interesting to see who kind of comes back to those first as a sector. I know we hit Neem a few weeks ago, but again, the chart's in the right spot. Um, yeah,
Natural gas will just, kind of and this had a contract switch, so that's why it was up 6%. It's not really up 6%. But anyway, so the move here, the 350 area, again, still kind of waiting on the real price to materialize, which I think is over $5. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Still like the combo names. Really is kind of my main
yeah,
focus on those.
that's the one.
And
That's the one.
oil, yeah. I think that you get the big spike on war news and all that fear and everything. Kind of a little bit of noise there, but this does likely grind back up into the lower 70s, and um, there's just at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of the oil stocks they don't need this to fly to $90 to reach some of their targets and their setups. There's a lot of oil stocks that have some you know 30% upside just on some basic relief and equilibrium that we talk about. So still really like that. A lot of opportunities in energy. My lists have been sort of energy heavy lately, so
Yeah.
there's a reason for that.
Yeah, if we get like, let's say, even from here 65 back to like 72, and you bought some oil, last few months, and you get a 10%, 20% up on wherever you bought, depending on the name. Some of those floats are smaller. That's when I would hang out. Now, if we ran to 90 and those charts ran with it, I'm just going to sell those positions because they're not going to hold those gains from that short term, overextended off the price of oil. We've said it for months, kind of becoming a just a basic oil note that stability in the price is best for them, and you see that over and over again in the charts. They know how to make money if you can tell them the playing field. So, I'm also interested in that BP. Is it BP Shell news? Kind of watch out for that.
Yes.
There'll be some moves in that and some trades around that too. And you should already be in BP. If not, I'd stay on that chart. It's just easier to trade than the Shell chart. It might be different for you option guys though.
I mean the BP is a good one. It's low IV and fairly cheap, so um, yeah, you can
I
definitely do
don't
well
think
there.
they sell under 35 or 36 B. Like if there's a deal, it's not under 35 or
Yeah.
36.
No, I agree. Yeah. All right. So then let's see here. 10-year, no big deal. This is doing exactly what I said you want, which is just sort of the chart to calm down. Candles get kind of small, you know, 0.5% moves here and there, and you're fine. And the market can take off and hold it rather than doing the pop and fade on you, which yeah, the pop and fade thing is in options is a disaster because there's a lot of people that what they'll do is so let's say you buy a contract, not and I won't even talk about the $30 contract guys, but you buy a contract for $250 and it pops to $290, but it sells off before you can get out, and all of a sudden it's $200, so you lost 50. And if you're smart, you just get out, but they'll just hold it and then it'll bleed out, and then it's 150 and then they'll average down. And I mean that's how, I mean the options can just be a meat grinder for people's money. And so that's what happens to them. But that scenario is a little less likely to happen in if the 10 years sort of parked where it is. So I would just monitor that.
Yeah, I'm y'all can write this one down. It's free, especially if you're on room. I look at it occasionally, like if I check SPY. If it's above 450, I just ask P what he thinks. So if it's above 450,
Yeah.
ask P what he thinks. If not, we're doing all right.
And all right, then I'll just round it out with a little
Yeah,
Bitcoin
yeah,
here.
do that. 107 kind of shocking to
Um,
me. That consolidation above 100, which I thought we'd be, just below the psych. Um, yeah, it's strong. More time here, the better, and we're spending time here. So
yeah.
the strength in the Bitcoin charts kind of shocking. Iron and CLSK kind of feel like we missed P when we were fucking around with the other ones, but hard to get them all.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm starting to. I had some higher numbers on Bitcoin, like when we talked about this.
Yeah,
That
yeah. I was 120. You were 132.
yeah, and so I think that yeah, that 132 and is more likely if when the consolidation is up here
Yep.
than if the consolidation was 92 to 95. So
Yeah.
so I'm still still on that. But I mean the good thing is it's fairly low stakes because I largely just kind of have what I have as far as crypto goes. So um willing to just give it a little room, see if we get that move up.
My crypto position never changes, so I got what I got.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, I'm fully ready here to say well, it's gonna happen that I'll say I was wrong, because we're probably gonna grind to 110 and then pop to that 132, or grind to 112 and pop to that 132. Real quick, just stupid question, and don't take it as anything but a stupid question. But what's your PT on Bitcoin, just in general? Like, what's the highest you think Bitcoin will
Oh
go
yeah.
in our
Oh
lifetime?
wow.
Like,
Right. Um. Oh man, that is a tough one.
okay, let's go the other way with
I
it. Is it over 250?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just
Yeah.
leave it. Leave it at that.
But
Leave it
not
at that.
much over that.
Leave it at that. Just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah.
I would probably take the other side of that. I just think I'm still on
Yeah.
the American bald eagle stablecoin kind of coming in and ruining everything at some point. And then Bitcoin doesn't work how it's
Blanket.
supposed to. We've talked about that before. So interesting.
Yeah. As far as crypto goes, it's a pretty clunky network compared to some others, but they were just first on the block,
Yeah.
um, and now they have all the institutional money in there and everything. So so yeah, I it's much more controlled now. I think that a lot of the Bitcoin the cycles they talk about, I think all that old data is a little bit worthless now because it's just so much different than the
Sure.
old days,
No, agree.
in terms of fresh money coming in and money coming in and out. I mean, it's just the liquidity setup is so different with all the derivatives and institutions and stuff. So so yeah, I mean those guys are clueless who start talking
Just
all that stuff. But
just think how inverted the two markets are, the actual stock market and the crypto market. And if you just look back 2 years ago, like you could 700% some stuff overnight. You could never do that in the stock
yeah,
market unless you got lucky on some options. Like you could never do that. And that's kind of where the options came in, is like, well, they're similar to how these coins are. We can make similar money. It's all about the outcome. Those market that is completely flipped. Like those altcoins, they don't do shit now. Like they're just not worth it. And then you pay the fees, and
yeah.
they're not a security, yada yada yada. Um, that will we get another cycle of NFTs, altcoins, or something? Probably at some point in time. Do we know what that is? No,
Yeah.
no fucking clue.
Yeah, I mean the so the altcoin, everyone's waiting for altcoin season, but you look at a weekly in an altcoin, most look like this. So
Yeah,
it just didn't happen, you know. I mean, you didn't for like this is just some random shitty one, Raven coin, but I think that what you would have wanted, given what Bitcoin's done, you would expect this to be like 12 cents or something, you know, at least. Like you could say, well, this big spike's never going to happen, but that you would have at least gotten to that, and you're still down at a penny, and made a few runs to 3 cents or whatever. But
you're on your
um,
like seventh
that
fucking high or low too.
you're right, yeah, yeah, exactly. So so that, I mean, that's just dead. There's just not
Yeah.
there's no saving it. There's no utility that this coin's going to have that's going to make it do anything. So
I,
yeah, it's
and I can show you 1,000 charts that mimic this chart from the 2020 run.
yeah,
Except for
exactly.
those are real companies.
Right, yeah, right, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Getting into some, yeah. Let's
All
do
right, so
that.
I'll get to
Let's do
some
that.
spy real quick.
Hey, what about 620 P? Not yet.
I just didn't have it.
Not
I
yet.
didn't have it. Yeah, nope.
I know. Still not yet. It looks like.
It's nope, nope. But they're uh they're kicking the can down the road, but I don't
Sure.
know to what yet. So, for example, this 560 for December that I talked about, heavily selling off at this point. So, they are rolling that to something, and I would expect it's probably a 580, maybe for the same month, or
Same floor.
um,
Same floor then.
January or something. Yeah, yeah. So so yeah, they're kind of they're getting out of that. They're bailing out on a lot of things, and this just needs a little refresh. And I would say the 620 probably starts to show up. I'm gonna have to really dig for it and see what they're doing with it because it's they're spreading out the expirations to a degree that it's not like they're centering in on one particular expiration the way they do with the puts. So mostly the upside is run through zero DTE, and that's not really what I read. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, but I will say the floor is about the same, 580, but they're moving the hedge a little bit on that.
Um, we talked earlier about how it's kind of hard to pull back or turn around the oxen. Um, we're
Yeah,
now back to a point though where you can actually have a 4 or 5% red day. People will panic, and you're not going to notice it on the chart. Um, so it's for me, it's either where they positioned, and that's why you're not seeing a lot of activity. Like they were already positioned in April, they did a good job. They didn't panic like most people did. However you want to look at it, and we continue from here, or they're going to need some more time um, to get positioned because they weren't ready to be back here. And I don't like. I know like I was kind of a little bit of an asshole about the bottom's in April, um, but the way you got to look at that, and it's real simple. I mean, I don't take it as like I can see things like Neo in the Matrix or anything like that, but it's just simply put, price will be revisited. Just write that down. And that doesn't mean like SPY's going to go to zero, but just where we've been over the last 6, 18 months, those prices usually get revisited. There's a definitive top. We're getting higher lows, and you kind of, it's hard to time. This happened a lot faster than I thought, and I think the market makers are in that same situation. So um, I'm still in the grind up. I don't think SPY has big days. Any pullbacks we get, don't chase puts because I think they'll be made up, and we'll still continue in that sector-driven firework market. Just kind of feels like where we are. The market's so for looking so far forward right now. Iran kind of tipped the hat on me. Like they figured that could get done in a month or two, and they're worried about Q1 next year already. I mean, even when you listen to people talk about the rates, they don't care if they get them next month or if they get them in September. They care if they get three, though. That's what they care about. And that just tells me the market's looking pretty far forward right now. So I don't expect my pullbacks to be that much and or last.
I know I'm with you, and I think that one thing to keep in mind about these SPY hedges, they're not necessarily hedging SPY with it. That they're hedging Microsoft, they're
Yeah,
hedging
yeah.
Nvidia, they're basically all kinds of
You're hedging a
Meta,
portfolio.
Netflix, like
They're hedging a portfolio.
exactly right. And it's just it's easier to hedge it given their bankroll through SPY than to just keep targeting individual names. So
Like it.
so they do a lot of that, and that's part of why you don't see the calls, I think.
Would you
All
say
right,
there's
good stuff.
a lot of put act sorry, one more. Would you say there's a lot more puts
Go
right
ahead, yeah, yeah.
now? A lot more puts out there than calls? Or what? 'Cause it just looks that way on what I'm looking at on your screen.
Well, it's short expiration. No, short expiration. There's way more calls.
Okay.
Um, in terms of yeah, the long anything over a month, especially there's more puts. Yeah, a lot of open interest out
So
there.
does that sound like the big money is positioned well? Would you take that from that because they're hedging their positions?
Uh, yes, I mean
Okay.
in fact, if with what just happened with the Trump pullback or whatever the tariff thing, all those hedges, I mean, just massive gains on all that stuff. And if you did that and you kept
Your shares.
your longs,
Yeah.
which they did, yeah, you did really well on that. So, so they're not in a big hurry, but they definitely seem to because we could go under 580,
Sure.
um, well under
Sure.
that,
Sure.
and so like they'll position again where that 580 floor would could go deep in the money for 6 or 8 days, and then recovers and they set back up again. So so yeah, I think they're well positioned for sure.
Yeah, like 560 would be actually a pretty good high or low from here, and people would be fucking panicking.
Oh yeah, it'd be like panic. Yeah, it'd be funny. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, Twitter, we didn't talk about you today. We didn't forget about you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Right.
You ready to get to work, P?
Yep.
All right, like and subscribe,
Yeah,
people.
quick break for me.
Perfect. Like and subscribe, people. Link somewhere.